Hello friends, Tracy Brown, your somatic nutrition therapist and attuned eating expert. And in today's video, I want to talk about physiology. I think sometimes when we don't understand enough about how our body works, and we're in a very fight or flight or freeze or pleasey situation where we feel overwhelmed with how to respond to the situation, aka getting a disease diagnosis. If we don't understand our own physiology and how food and body and digestion and all the things work, what happens oftentimes is that we pretty blindly believe that we should just go do keto to fix everything, or exercise 10,000 hours a day or whatever to fix the problem. And the truth is, the truth is way more or less exciting than that. What I find that people really need to understand is like, well, how, if a doctor or a dietitian or anybody's giving you advice for any kind of health condition that's lifestyle specific, it behooves you, and I encourage you all to do this if you work with me or any other health practitioner related person. Get some info, ask questions about like, oh, so, with my PCOS, you're saying that if I eat no carbs, that'll cure this, but where would my body get energy if we get energy from carbs? How's this gonna work? What is insulin resistance in terms of my cells and how my cells get energy? Ask these questions. Don't be afraid to ask these questions. We go to school to learn this stuff. And if you don't know as a practitioner, go for it and say, you know what? I don't know all the details of exactly how food is digested this way when you're in fight or flight, or when you have an IBS flare, what's exactly happening, and how come maybe in that time XYZ food doesn't work in that time when it does when you're not stressed out. It's important to understand that so you have the information to feel grounded about clarity of choice. When you have clarity of choice and you feel like you have something that has your back and you can feel more grounded in what you're doing, then it's like you made a choice. And I think we can live with our choices when we understand what all of this means and all the different aspects of it, like the genetic, the food, the movement, the autoimmune, the stress responses. We need to know all these pieces of the puzzle before we go off blaming ourselves for having the power to cause everything that ever happens to us. So like we've talked about in all the videos this week, yes, of course we have some, because of the eating disorder, it has caused stress on our body. Totally. It's definitely a precursor to a lot of things that are chronic for some of us. That doesn't mean that's the case, and that doesn't mean that it's not all reversible, or at least we can process through and grieve how we have always probably done the best we could with the ability, the coping, the information we had. But it's time to start allowing yourself to have the courage to ask about how things work. What is the alternative? What if I didn't want to do this thing with my food? What would it look like if I did it this way and treated it this way? What are the outcomes that way? Remember, you have choices. And it doesn't mean that we diminish our physician's advice to us or whomever else. It just means we need to understand the view from which they're coming from. And is that a view that's sustainable in the next 2 weeks, 2 years, whatever? It's very, very important. And if it's something like this is where the rubber meets the road. It's like the thing that's going to help you. Are you getting referrals to the care that you need in place to implement these changes? Because if you're already in an overwhelmed, shut down, anxious place with your health to begin with, and you're recommended to do certain things, but if there hasn't been an assessment of it, you have the tools and the skills, whether physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual, to create the actions to go with that, you're going to feel pretty stuck with it. And that's where it kind of falls on the floor, or we get desperate and do more desperate things. So it's really, really important to look at the big picture of how we implement any information that we get. How true is it? How true is it for you, and for how long, and what would that look like? And how, with the life I have, I make that doable. So these are my tips this week to unshaming yourself from getting a diagnosis, and your first thought is, I'm going to blame myself for every ache and pain and issue I have, and I'm a bad person and I should have known better. That's just not true. So I hope this video series helped unshame you as well, and I will see you in next week's videos. Bye for now.